Good afternoon and welcome to Football League World TV. My name's Ned Holmes and today we're putting Friday night's championship tie between Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest under the microscope. Forest travel down to the south coast on Friday evening and we'll be breaking down what looks set to be a phenomenal contest between two sides with promotion aspirations. In the Cherries corner, we've got Neil Grover, and in the Forest corner, just returning, we do have Des Oldham. I'll start with you, Neil. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. Thank you for having me back, and hope you guys are all doing well.
Yeah, we're all good from Football League World's perspective, certainly. And how about you, Des, returning once again to talk about Forest and hopefully some more positivity from you today?
Absolutely. Apologies about that. The internet dropped out. Really looking forward to the game. Really looking forward to discussing it and getting excited about it again.
Absolutely. Well, before we get started, just a reminder to please give this video a like or also subscribe to Football League World TV on YouTube and let us know your thoughts on Friday's game via the comments, whether you're a Forest fan, a Bournemouth fan or just a general fan of the EFL. Before we shift our focus to Friday night's game, and that's obviously going to be what we're talking about today, I just wanted to start off really by asking you both, starting with you, Neil, if you had any particular good or bad memories of Bournemouth versus Forest clashes of the past.
Yeah, so it's one of my favourite away days anyway. But I think the specific memory that sticks out for me was the first year we played them for a long time. So that would have been probably 8 years ago when we first went up to the Championship. I don't know if you might have seen this at the time, Des, but the local newspaper in Nottingham put out an article along the lines of little Bournemouth coming up for their big day out at the big league, and we scored a last-minute equaliser from Mark Pugh, which went down exceedingly well. That was in the first year we came up to the Championship. So that's probably my favourite away day experience. Bumped into quite a few of the players down the pub afterwards. So that was good fun.
Certainly sounds like the ideal away day experience. What about you, Des?
Yeah, that one kind of stands out for me. I've been to Bournemouth once in the past. It's not very memorable. We got beat 2-0. That was in League One. That was a long time ago, sort of 2006. But then once we got promoted, and I think Bournemouth followed us up the next year, we was looking to push on and expecting. I personally, without being arrogant about it, was expecting Bournemouth to go straight back down, and I think they went straight up the other way, didn't they? Up towards the Premier League, and we spent a few years struggling. So, yeah, that one sticks out. And I was looking at the fixtures earlier. To be honest, there's not that many memorable games in the Championship over the last few years. Some of them was during COVID, which a 0-0 during COVID, and of course the Chris Hughton era, which we're trying to erase as Forest fans. One that does stick out rather bizarrely for me was a pre-season friendly. We beat Bournemouth 2-0 at the City Ground, and it's when Marinakis, the Greek owners, had taken over, and we'd had an influx of Portuguese players, Gil Dias, Carvalho, and they all looked good on a summer's day in July at the City Ground. So we thought we was going up that season as well, but it transpired that we're still in the Championship as we have been for many years.
Well, we'll shift our focus then to Friday night's game. Bournemouth, of course, hosting Forest at the Vitality Stadium, 7:45 p.m. kickoff on the south coast, and the Cherries will be looking to close the gap on Fulham at the top, which is 6 points. Well, Steve Cooper's side will know that they could catapult themselves into the top six with a win, if only for about 24 hours before the other sides in the playoff race play. Coming to you, Neil, then, the Cherries are obviously, famous sort of defeat to Boreham Wood in the FA Cup, but the last few weeks in the Championship have sort of seen you guys get back on track. 3 wins from the last 3 Championship games. If it might have taken a 94th minute winner from Suiki Dembele to beat Blackpool, but back to second now, 4 points above Blackburn with 2 games in hand. I just wonder, how you feel the team are playing right now and how confident you are about sort of achieving that automatic promotion push.
Yeah, it's a funny one. I think if you were to take a temperature check of the Bournemouth fans right now, I think it would be slightly negative. I think we had a really relatively bad run just before these past 3 games, and I think we fell off the boil a little bit, and that sort of caused us to go from where that situation where us and Fulham we had quite a nice gap, didn't we? And I think everyone at the top, with the exception of Blackburn Rovers, although that's now reversed, kind of took their foot off the gas a little bit. I'm hoping that with the window we had now, we're now going to push back on again. Certainly 3, you can't argue with 3 wins in 3. And despite, okay, it took a bit of luck at Blackpool, but those are the sort of games that you look at the end of the season and go, well, teams that go up win those games where they perhaps shouldn't have done. They needed a bit of luck, and they got 3 points. So I'm cautiously positively optimistic, but at the start of the season, if you'd offered me that we would be in the top 2 race, I think I would have been very happy with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly this time of year is the sort of time where momentum is more important than ever. And Des, coming to you next, the Forest perspective, a fair bit of momentum, with that FA Cup run of your own, but sort of up to 7th in the table now, 2 points back from 6th place Middlesbrough. You guys have played 1 more. There seems to still be a lot of good feeling and positivity, despite that blip against Cardiff, the draw to Stoke City, the 2-2 draw that we were talking about just before coming on air. That some fans are a little bit concerned about that, but for the most part, seems a lot of positivity. Do you feel, Des, and is the general feeling at the City Ground like the Reds are headed for the playoffs?
I definitely feel it. I've been really confident for a long time. You've just got to look at the results and the performances under Cooper. When we've had a blip, we've come back strong. There is a little bit of worry ahead of this fixture after the result against Stoke. There was a lot of positivity that there was even talk of second place and chasing Bournemouth down. And I think with about 20 minutes to go, we would have been 5 points behind going into this game until we conceded and Bournemouth turned that game around. So there was a lot of positivity. And then the way it kind of fell away from us at the end just caused a little bit of anxiety around the fan base. But I just keep looking at these FA Cup games. People are asking on other forums, would you prefer the league or the cup? I kind of want us to do both, because the cup is sort of give us a platform to sort of a free hit to go back and get into form. The cup games, the Arsenal game, come after a couple of league defeats, which we'd not experienced. We'd not had back-to-back defeats. Then we won 4 games in a row, big games as well. Arsenal, Derby at home and Millwall away, a tough one there. So we won games after sort of losing games, but then getting into the cup competitions and going on from there. The Leicester game came after the Coventry game you mentioned before, and we won that well. And then we was really confident going to Blackburn, another big game. So the cups give us a good platform to go and do our thing, and some of these top players who are actually becoming top players to showcase what they're doing. But the confidence is going through the roof, and then they're taking that back into the league form. Stoke was one of those games. It was a little bit. It was difficult. We know what Stoke are. They're not going to make it easy for us. But we got our noses in front, and then it just kind of slipped away from us a little bit. 1 or 2 sort of bad decisions from corners and things like that. But I'm still pretty confident, going into this game. I think we tend to perform against the bigger clubs. The game against Blackburn, which was only a week ago, just over a week ago, we went to Blackburn and won 2-0, who have been in red hot form recently. So I'm really sort of looking forward to this one and hoping we can go and do something similar. I think when the emphasis is on Forest to sort of the emphasis is on tactics against these bigger teams, Steve Cooper gets it right. When the emphasis is on us to go and perform and do our thing, we find it a little bit difficult. If you see what I'm saying, when we're not expected to go, I think Cooper's a bit of a tactical genius in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had Will in the comments saying that he thinks Forest and Middlesbrough are Bournemouth's biggest threat to the top two right now. And Wayne Walden has said, as a Forest fan, Forest will win. As a Fulham fan, rather, he thinks Forest will win 3-1. Forest a strong side, and Bournemouth will have their work cut out. But perhaps a little bit of bias there. Him hoping Bournemouth will drop some points. But if you are watching, please do drop us your thoughts, your predictions in the comments, or any questions you might have for Des or Nick. We'll switch our attention to team news next, guys, then, starting with the home side. In terms of injuries, a couple for Bournemouth, Kiefer Moore and Junior Stanislas, obviously the two sort of sidelined with longer-term issues. Ryan Christie looks set to miss out, though there does seem to have been good news after a scan for him. And Gary Cahill obviously missed the Blackpool game due to a knee issue, so it's unclear really there where he stands. Jefferson Lerma suspended as well, of course. Neil, which of those for you are the real concerns?
I think I was very disappointed that Moore got injured. I was very excited by that signing. He's now probably out for the rest of the season, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
Possibly back for playoffs if it comes to that. So I'm hoping he's out for the season. But outside of that, I do think Lerma is a big miss for us. He really does add sort of an extra depth to the midfield. But we did see against Blackpool that it did give Lewis Cook a little bit more freedom in the middle of the park to kind of play his game. Yeah. Outside of that, I don't think Cahill necessarily would be in the squad, even if fit at the moment, now with Phillips in. Yeah. I think that's where it is. Stanislas, we can't really count on him very much, unfortunately, anymore anyway. And Christie is a loss. He's that sort of left-footed right winger that Parker really likes playing. He likes having that sort of cut in. So I think that's why we were looking at Bowler at Blackpool as sort of a replacement for him over the transfer window. So it'll be interesting to see what he does there. But I think Dembele more than showed his class against Blackpool, and hopefully he'll continue to sort of act as a more than adequate replacement for him.
So if you were in Scott Parker's sort of shoes, Neil, heading into this game, any changes that you'd be making to the side?
Not off the cuff. I do think, from what we know of the team, I think he'll more or less stick it out. There may be one or two. You might see a Kilkenny or someone like that, or possibly Pearson. It really depends how he wants to set up against Forest. Generally speaking, at home we are a bit more. We will be a little bit more on the front foot, I would imagine. But yeah, I don't expect like wholesale changes. I think we'll more or less see exactly the same team that we saw the other day.
Fantastic. Coming to Forest then, Des, obviously Bryce Samba, the big miss as he continues, as he starts to serve that suspension for the red card. How big of a blow do you think that is, Des?
Oh, it's a massive blow. There's no doubt in that. And I touched on the anxiety thing around the fans. It's the big talking point here in Nottingham and in Forest sort of community. Everybody's just a little bit concerned about his replacement, Orvath. I'm pretty confident he can come in and do his job. And Cooper's saying that this goalkeeper's had to come a long way even just to be the next in line, at a championship team. But he made one appearance earlier in the season and it didn't go well for him, a league appearance against Middlesbrough. But I'm confident again that with the players around him and the momentum we've built, when we've faced adversity, some of those defeats I mentioned earlier, we bounced back in bigger games, and earlier in the season that didn't happen. One defeat led to another. And now, when we're faced with difficulties like that, and with the experience in front of Orvath as well, former Bournemouth man, of course, Steve Cook, he'll help him a lot. You've got Joe Worrell and McKenna, who are not young anymore. They're not old, but they're really experienced at this level. I think there's plenty there, and all that should be absolutely fine. I don't think there'll be too many changes elsewhere. I think Ryan Yates might come back into the side. It seems in the last 3 or 4 weeks that the midfield four, sort of the quartet of Colback, Yates, Zinkernagel and Garner, it seems that each game one of them's missed out. And in the game against Stoke, I think we really miss Ryan Yates. Of course, he's the most workmanlike sort of grafter in the team. And against Stoke, I think Joe Allen he was the playmaker. He ran the game from a bit deeper than teams would normally. So I think we might see Ryan Yates back in for an away game at Blackburn. Not Joe Garner, he's a former Forest player. Garner played a role further forward instead of Zinkernagel, and he played really well. So I think we might revert to what we saw at Blackburn, where you've got Yates and Cole back in the midfield, and then Garner sort of playing behind Davis up front. Other than that, I don't see too much. But in terms of the goalkeeper, it does feel like a massive loss, and the fact he got sent off, I think I touched on before we came on, it does feel like this could be a pivotal moment in the season. Whilst I'm confident in Horvath, it could go one way or the other.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. We've had a lot of comments in about Horvath. Jimmy Wright saying he believes Horvath will be fine. He sort of said what you said, confidence in front of him in that back three will help him. And he feels, he's a Forest fan, and he feels, you know, that same belief that Cooper has instilled in the players, is, as you were saying, Des. Liam in the comments has said he thinks Horvath needs to be given a chance. It's too early to judge him. And Des, he wants to know what you made of that Bryce Samba punch against Stoke.
Oh God, it was just bonkers.
Yeah.
It was one of those. Bryce Samba, he got dropped for Horvath in that game I mentioned, and he come back and he kind of come back, went about his business, built his confidence, but he thrives off the crowd. You know, they sing his name a lot. He's known for a little bit of time wasting towards the end of games, and he gets the away fans riled up. And over the last few weeks, it's just been building. It's just since the Derby game, apparently the club weren't too happy with him because felt he could have lost us that game in the end. But it was one of them, Jagielka kind of went to block it without sort of thinking too much, and Samba without thinking, because Forest had just conceded.
Yeah.
He just threw his arm out, and it's like, what's he done? What's he done? And you try to find a reason for him not to get sent off, but the reality is it's a red card and a 3-game ban every day of the week.
Absolutely. We've had a question in for you as well, Neil, from Helen R. She says, Neil, do you think Todd Cantwell should start the game tomorrow?
Yes. I really do. As well as, I mean, to be honest, I was excited by quite all of our signings on deadline day, but I think that was the one that really made the Championship sit up and go, hang on. We saw glimpses of the player that I believed we were signing against Blackpool. He likes sort of putting balls around the corner and little chips, adding an extra dimension to our midfield. I would be incredibly shocked if he doesn't play. And I think he's going to be really key to any success we have for the rest of the season.
Absolutely. And just coming back to you, Des, on team news before we move on to talk about a few of the danger men, and Cantwell, I'm sure, will be one that comes up there. Obviously, Lewis Grabban sideline, but it seems to me from the outside that the form of both Keane and Davis and a strong start from sort of Sam Surridge have meant that that's really sort of lessened the blow there, hasn't it?
Absolutely. Davis has been absolutely brilliant. You know, he's got a bit of everything, apart from the goals before he came, but he's scored two for us so far. So he is chipping in. He's got pace, he's got power. The goal against Blackburn, I think he'd even got knocked to the floor and got back up and put a ball through for Garner. So he's been brilliant, but he does tire towards the end of games. Cooper's always talking about working on his fitness and the fact he's not played full matches for a very long time. So, and the fact that they had to go and get Surridge, Cooper admitted it was almost because of what happened to Grabban. It was one of those where they looked at it late in the transfer window and took an opportunity. But what he does and what Forest have lacked, in my opinion, for a long time, Lyle Taylor wasn't really the answer in the way they was asking him to play, is he holds the ball up as good as I've seen most Championship players. I've spoken in the past about the likes of Matt Smith, Kiefer Moore even, you know, have really hurt Forest at times. But Surridge has come on late in games, you know, perhaps when we've been winning, so it's that little bit easier, I guess. But he's won a penalty at Blackburn. He was he played an integral part in the goal on Saturday. He got the ball down, and again on Saturday, it kind of came out of nothing. So when you're taking off Davies, you kind of think, are we almost bedding in for a 0-0 here? But he had enough about him to get that ball down, get it wide, and obviously with the pace we've got down the wings and Brennan Johnson coming in, we've always got that opportunity.
Yeah, certainly a player of his ilk who, as you say, is able to sort of hold off defenders so well. Will really benefit from the likes of Zinkenagel and Johnson bombing down the wings. But we'll move next to talk about a few of the danger men from each side. I'll come to you first, Neil. Then we're going to shake things up a bit, as it were, and shift your focus onto Forest. Are there any players looking at that Forest squad that you're particularly worried about, that you think could hurt the Cherries tomorrow night?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always nervous about former players. And that means that out of all of the clubs in the Championship, Forest probably worry me the most, because I think at last count you've got 4 of them. In fact, you even got rid of Lyle Taylor and replaced him with another one, which is good. And I would like to just touch on what you say about Surridge. I agree with everything you've said there about him being sort of a hold-up player. I was quite not upset to see him go, because we got a good price for him when he went, but I do think he was a really good signing. For Forest, I think he's going to be a cracking player at this level. Whether or not that will translate upwards, I don't know. So that he worries me. I think those sort of players, we perhaps didn't give him the chance that he should have had. So he's going to be absolutely chomping at the bit to put one over. And then Steve Cook as well. I think a lot of Bournemouth fans were gutted to see him go. I totally appreciate why we let him go. I think it was the right move for everyone. But again, I suspect he will be he'll be one to look out for at set pieces, because again, I think he'll have a point to prove.
Yeah, absolutely, and hopefully, and you'd imagine it'll be a great reaction for Steve Cook tomorrow. Obviously, coming back up for the first time, and I think it was a classy move, really, from Bournemouth to let him go when they did, because there is cover there, but equally. Scott Parker could have easily just held on to him. What you said there sort of be mirrored as well in the comments, Neil. Helen R saying Surridge will want to score against his former club, and Jimmy Wright saying he's due a goal. Des, coming to you then, this Bournemouth side, there's no lack of quality sort of throughout from the starting 11 and in the squad, but which players are the ones that you're particularly worried about?
Well, I've touched on it already. I'm glad Moore's not playing, because he's caused us a lot of damage in the past. One player that does stick out for me, probably slightly away from the obvious ones, is Billing. Whether it's for Bournemouth or whether it's for, I think he was man of the match in the game at the City Ground, and he's played well against us when he played for Huddersfield as well. So somebody who's a real athletic type, and when we've not been so sort of on it ourselves, is somebody who could take the game to us. So I've always, you see a good player, you see a player the first time, and you watch him again, and you think, this guy's a good player. Why has he never really gone on? And he's kind of one of those. So, and then there's the obvious ones as well. Cantwell, it's surprising as a Championship fan looking in, and that he's moved to a Championship club. No disrespect to Bournemouth, but he was tipped for bigger things sort of 12, 18 months ago. So you'd think if he resurrects his career in the way it was going at that point at Bournemouth, he's going to be a massive asset to what they do. And of course, that trickery around our sort of, whilst I'm not saying that our defence is not mobile, there's ways to get at them at times. And I think with him and Dembele is an interesting one. It's somebody who's always been linked with Forest. And I actually thought at certain points it would happen. Really interested to see him, because when you watch the highlight reels for Peterborough, he seems to be tearing it up every game. And of course, he's gone straight in and got a goal. So when you're signing new players and you hit the ground running like that, it's something to be kind of worried about. And then there's all the other attacking options, like you said, Ned. There's lots for us to think about, but hopefully. we can contain them, keep them out. I'm sure what Cooper will do is try and contain these Flair players first half, and then give it a go in the second. So, yeah, those are the ones that stick out for me.
Absolutely. Well, your thoughts sort of echoed in the comments. Kizzo Red Talk saying, I'm worried about Todd Cantwell for you lot. Got such a great engine on him and a match winner. And Jimmy Wright in the comments saying he thinks Billing always looks quality. And a Bournemouth fan, Will, saying Cantwell has slotted in with our style pretty well so far. He'll be integral tomorrow if Christie is out on it. And it looks like Christie is set to be out. Finally, then we'll move on to sort of, how we think that the game's going to play out. Neil, coming to you first, what are your sort of predictions for how things are going to go in tomorrow night's contest?
I think the first goal is going to be massive. Historically, this season we've really struggled when we've gone behind. Blackpool was one of the few times where we've done, or we've fought back at that point. Particularly, as I said, touched on earlier, I believe there is a slight nervousness in the Bournemouth fan base at the moment. So if Forest get an early goal, I think it could be a very nervy game. However, I do think, like you've said there, Des, I think some of our players like Dembele could really cause some problems for your back line. So if we score first, then I think it'll be a much more comfortable game. So I suspect I hope we'll win, but yeah, I think a score draw wouldn't be an awful result either.
And what about you, Des? How do you see things playing out?
First half, as I touched on before, I kind of see Forest almost trying to contain Bournemouth, all those attacking players, perhaps adding that little bit of protection in front of Orvath, making sure we're going into the latter stages of the game with something, with a chance of either a win or nicking a draw. I've seen it earlier in the season when we weren't quite as confident as Swansea. They had 75% possession, and we just did a job in keeping them out, and then we've got something to play at second half. I think with the goalkeeper situation and all the attacking players in the Bournemouth team, the interesting thing for me will be our Cook plays. I've seen, whilst he's been brilliant at times, I've seen he's made the odd mistake and his confidence has just dropped a little bit. So it'll be interesting if Bournemouth kind of get to him and what reaction he gets. I'm really looking forward to seeing that. But I kind of just see it, like I say, perhaps being 0-0 at half time. If Bournemouth do score first and if they score early, I would worry. I kind of say that in most games. If Forest score, I think it'll make for a much better game. And you could end up with a high scoring score draw. Hopefully we can do enough to nick it and hold on at the end.
So we come to that point of the show that I'm sure you'll all have been worried about. Des, I'll start with you. What's your score prediction for tomorrow night?
I actually think, having just said all those things I've said, 2-2. 2-2.
And what about you, Neil?
I'm going to say 2-0 to us, purely because I think if we score early, and I think we'll push for it, I think we'll hold on. But I equally could very much see 2-2 as well.
Absolutely. We've had a 2-2 and a 2-0 to Bournemouth. So just for balance then, Jimmy Wright in the comments, 2-0 Forest, Lolly to come on from the bench and wrap it up late. Well, that is everything from us on Football League World TV for today. But tomorrow we've got some more fantastic content with the EFL betting show at 10 a.m. and, of course, the weekend preview at 4 p.m. That just leaves me to say thank you, Neil, and thank you, Des. And, of course, thanks to everyone for watching.